Roger, thanks for dropping by. This is a tag video that I find odd, to say the least, because of the concept of it. But nonetheless, if you're tagged, you go along with it. So that's what I'm doing. It's later in the day. It's Lynn's fault, she tagged me. And I'll twist this round several times as we go along. First of all, hands up all those who think they know me. Yeah, we'll put them down again, you're wrong, because you don't. What you know is this. There are others that know me outside of this, like from the Orchid societies and things like that. So you think you know me then? No, you don't. What you know is the half of me that I call the front, which is this one, the smiley one, the cheerful one, the one that quite likes to join in conversations, has a habit of interrupting people to try and dominate that conversation. And that starts bringing me back how I'm going to twist this round. Because this is supposed to be about an orchid that defines me, or best sort of fits alongside. So as I say, I find it a difficult concept to even be talking about. But to be able to do that, first of all, we need to do me before we can fit something alongside it. There are traits that people have, and you've got these daft star sign things, 12 zodiac signs, which are cobblers. But are they? Because if you think about it, people get put in pigeonholes all the time. We all do it, we're all guilty of it to one degree or another. And what are those pigeonholes but basically types of people? Loud people, quiet people, tall people, short people, you know, aggressive people, timid people. We've got all these little pigeonholes, and so the zodiac signs divide people into 12. That's actually quite a few, isn't it? Compared with, you know, what I've just said, like tall, short, there's only 2. Medium, 3. But you see what I'm getting at? Categorisations. And although I don't believe in such nonsense, they are nonetheless just a brief, you know, way of sort of breaking people up. What I disagree with is the fact that you fit into that slot because of your birthday. I understand the slots. So there we'll come back round to me. What slot am I in? I'm a Scorpio. And I am. Now that's not always good. It can be. You want somebody to be strong for you, or, you know, support you, do all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's supposed to be the Scorpio trait. But you have to bear in mind what a scorpion is. It has the little sting in the tail, and it is said that you don't want to get on the wrong side of a Scorpio or cross a Scorpio. That fits me. I bear a grudge for life. Never gets forgotten. That's part of my traits. So let's twist it round a little bit more. That's one way of looking and categorising people, done by birthday. There's another way, and that's the Chinese zodiac. Now that's done by year. And so that covers a huge amount. And I was born in 1950, which was the year of the tiger. But the tigers are divided up into different elements, I think, that go with them. So I was a metal tiger, characterised by very hard exterior, difficult to penetrate, stands its ground, all that sort of stuff. And you can take all this lot with a pinch of salt, but I sort of stopped and I thought, well, actually some of that's true. Some of it's cobblers, but some of it's true. So you sort of get a thing. So this bit about do you know me, no you don't, is because you see, like me, chatting away, all this sort of stuff. That's not me. If it wasn't for the videos, I could go days without actually saying a word. And I don't mind that. I like my own company. That's why when I go for a walk in the forest, if I can see somebody in my binoculars, they're too damn close. I like my solitude. I like it a lot. I share it with my 2 cats. You know, they don't answer back. Actually, they do. Just why I end up getting up early sometimes, because they're talking to me. But I am a loner by nature. So I have this two types of personality. The one that is me being normal, which is a loner. I like my nature, I like my wildlife, I like all that sort of stuff. But then I have me that likes to be in amongst people, having a good chat and having a laugh. I try and make a joke wherever I am. If you don't like it, well, tough. Right, so now what we've got to do is try and find an orchid that fits in. So what are we looking at then? We're looking at somebody, oh, the other thing I forgot to say that is me down to a T is I'm a planner. Why do I plan? It comes back to liking to be in control, not knowing what's coming next. I really am not easy when I'm uncertain of, things like that. So I am a bit of a controller. So it's like now, not knowing where I'm going to live for a while. It's uneasing, it puts me on edge. But it's a task that I am tasked with, so I will do it. That's the determination side of me. If I make my mind up something's going to get done, it's going to get done. And as is said, it is not a good idea to stand in the way. Maybe, maybe not. So what sort of orchid are we looking for then? We're looking for one that has a routine. Well, you could say all orchids have a routine. Well, yes, but they don't always do what they're supposed to do. Now that's me. I can be very unpredictable on the grounds that this is the two sides of me again, I could be predictable on the grounds that, the front that people know, oh, Roger will do that, so and so. But the side of you that I don't know, this planner, some would say schemer, will have already gone through all that and decided whether I'm actually going to do that or not. So I'd be way ahead, if you see what I mean. So we need an orchid that follows a set routine. I do like my routines, but has a habit of breaking out of it for no apparent reason. It's got a reason. It's planned. Yeah? If orchids can do such things. Right, so of course the thing we can't apply to orchids that definitely applies to me is I do not like getting wet. I don't do rain, I don't do swimming. I reluctantly keep myself clean. I really do not like getting wet. So that excludes orchids. Orchids have to have hydration. They're not going to last long. But they can have a lot more than they need, and that's where we end up with them going downhill. I think if I spent some time in the sea, I'd be going downhill. I'd go downhill like a brick, because I don't swim so good. I can swim probably about 10 yards, and that's about it. And I wouldn't do that unless I absolutely had to. Right, so an orchid that has a routine, but it's not necessarily a strict routine. So we don't want one that blooms on the button every year, do we? We want one that is flexible, but still has a scheme, has an overall plan. And then we want one that we can't have a wishy-washy orchid that won't grow very well, because that wouldn't reflect me at all, would it? It would have to be an orchid that likes to get on and grow, and once it decides to do that, it gets on with it, if you see what I mean. So a relatively vigorous plant, perhaps. Then we have to come back to the fact that my thing, really, what I'm known for in the orchid world, is the dendrobiums. That's not all I grow, but it's the majority. So we'd have to pick a dendrobium. So we're narrowing it down now. So now, in the dendrobium world, we've got those that are predictable via the seasons. Now, this is where I'm going to deviate from orchids, because you get people that you hear say frequently, "Oh, it's flipping freezing today." No, it's bloody not. When it's below 0, it's freezing. When it's above, it's not. But they have a very narrow tolerance of their environment around them, and if it deviates even slightly, it's sweltering. Yeah, it's 24 degrees, that's not hot. 44 is hot. And you shouldn't be out in it, you should be in the shade. Yeah? So I've got a very, very wide comfort zone. I don't feel the cold that much, despite the fact I put a top on. That's because I've been out and I didn't want to put a coat on. It's too early in the year to start wearing coats. Wussy people. And that's something I dislike is a lack of strength, if you see what I mean. People who just give in at anything, I like people who have some strength in them. They're standing on the mountainside like that. I'm not going indoors. I said I was going to get to the top. I will get to the top. But not if it's raining. Do snow, but I'm not doing rain. So, yeah, we need an orchid that doesn't worry too much about the seasons. In other words, it's not going to object if it gets cold. Within reason, It's not going to object if it's hot. It'll do okay in all of those environments. Now, light. I am a daytime person. I'm not a night person. In the summertime, I get up just as it gets light and I go to bed before it gets dark. So I'm never about in the dark. The only reason I'm about in the dark in the winter is because the days are so short. It's not my natural environment. I'm not a person who likes going out, nightlife, clubs, pubs, all that sort of stuff. I've never been into that. The only time I've frequented pubs, public houses, is for music, is for live music. I'm not interested in discos or anything like that. That scene never has done anything for me. The thought of jigging up and down and getting all hot and sweaty to music that just goes thump, 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 thump all night long, I'm out. So, we need an orchid that doesn't react too much to seasons, sort of does its own thing within that. As I say, I'm quite happy to go for a stroll in the middle of winter, as long as it's not raining. And I'm quite happy to be outside when we're in a heat wave. I do have a hat. We are getting thin on the top. Now that's called being sensible, not being stupid. I did a video. Where did I go? Where I found that pine tree that I said would make a good bonsai, which is not far from where I live. I forget why I went there, but I did. And I had a hat on because it was up 30 plus and crystal clear blue sky, and it was midday-ish, so you wear a hat, protect the old thin bit on top. There's something else. I've never had heat stroke in my life, and I do go out in hot weather. I'm not too fast. So we're getting there. We also have to have something that, for me, I like exceptional. I'm not so keen on run-of-the-mill. So, if I look at artwork, I'm more likely to go for something that's odd, rather than a lovely landscape of some farmland with some rolling hills. That to me is run-of-the-mill. I won't say anybody can do it, because to do it and make it look really good, that's where an artistic sort of bent comes in. But nonetheless, the picture doesn't do anything for me. Whereas, like, say, a picture of a kingfisher diving into the water with the drops of water coming out, most people wouldn't start to even think about painting that. You take a photo of it, yeah, but paint it? So in the art world, it's the same with photography. I want somebody who's taken a picture not only well, in other words, it's sharp where it's supposed to be, it's gradated right, light to shade, all that sort of stuff's been got right for the subject, but it's a subject where that may have only happened once and that person was there and caught it. And it won't be repeated unless it's staged. Staged photos stick out like a sore thumb. We're getting there. So we want something that is not affected dramatically by seasons. Not so fussed if it's cool, not so fussed if it's hot, that sort of thing. Doesn't like being soaking wet. That's most orchids really, isn't it? Although there are some that don't mind. And something that's odd, something that doesn't fall in to the regular, to the normal. Now for me, if you're talking about dendrobiums, I call the Dendrobium phalaenopsis types normal, because they don't really need anything special. They should do fine, even if you deviate from their core, their little narrow comfort zone. And that's because they haven't got a narrow comfort zone, they've got quite a big one. So they're a bit like me. Quite honestly, there is only one for me that it can be, and it's behind me. And it's one of the first ones I ever got. It's one of the ones that you could reasonably safely say is a specimen plant, and it's Dendrobium hercoglossum. Why does that be the one that goes with me? Well, it works okay throughout the year. It doesn't have a season when it stops. It doesn't have a season when it needs any special care, so it can look after itself. It doesn't need loads of help yet. better not exclude having help in case I do need it one day, but I don't now yet. And quite honestly, I'm not too keen on accepting help. So what help does this need? Well, it needs hydration and some food and reasonable light. It doesn't need anything special. It just grows okay, puts out new growths any time, doesn't follow a pattern. It does have a season when it has a mass blooming, but it usually puts out some early and still has some more later on. So it hasn't even got a proper blooming season. It sort of comes and goes, but that is in the growing season. Well, I'm picking that simply because it's one of the first dendrobiums I got, and when it came into bloom the first time, it was up in the roof and it was a bright day, and I hadn't really thought about it before. And I'd come out with the camera to film something. I mean, this is going back a long time now, and this was up in the air, so I was looking up into the blooms, and they glowed. They stood out from anything else I had ever filmed in here. With the light behind them, they had a glow to them, and I fell for them there and then, and I'm still that way inclined. It's still one of the best blooms for that reason, not because they're big, not because they're blousy, not because they're a particularly dramatic colour or anything. That's got nothing to do with it. It's just the way they react to bright light coming in from behind them. So they're special. And of course, so am I. You believe that, you believe anything. Anyway, it's a bit of a daft game, this, quite honestly. It doesn't suit me. The tag that I did like was one of the first Orchids tags, which is going back a flipping long time, which is just like a set of questions. And, you know, people sat down or stood up or did whatever and just gave their answers to that set of questions. And then they put the questions in the description and then tagged some people. But the trouble is with the tags now is there are so many more channels. Who the hell is subscribed to all of them? Who's got the time? You know, when I first started out, you could be subscribed to most of the channels and watch most of the videos. You can't now. And a tag drops dead on its face when somebody is tagged and they haven't watched the video, so they don't know they've been tagged, and it just dies. This one will go that way eventually. Okay? But rather than incur the wrath of Lynn, which I definitely ain't going to do, not that brave, I've done my one, and now I've got to think of somebody else to tag, and I didn't. Oh yes, I'm a planner, I'm a schemer. Well, I didn't plan that, did I? So I'm going to have to think of somebody now. And the trouble is, because I haven't kept tabs, I don't know who's already been done. So if I pick somebody and they've already been done, I'll have to pick somebody else and somehow let them know. So I'm just trying to think who has been done, and I can't because I haven't been following it. Shall I pick somebody obscure? Need somebody with a reasonable orchid knowledge to be able to relate orchid traits and people traits. They don't really go together, do they? I don't know. I suppose it has to be in the video. I can't just leave it, this is going to take an hour and a half or whatever before it ever reaches YouTube. I could have a think while I'm sat in my comfy chair, couldn't I? Rather than struggling to do it here. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. So, to know somebody, the person that's been tagged, they will have watched the video, yeah? Otherwise they wouldn't know they were tagged. Well, if they've watched the video, obviously they can have a quick look at the description, can't they? To find out if it was them, which gives me plenty of time to do it. So I'm not going to say in the video because I can't think at the moment. I need to go and have a look at my subscriptions and what's about and see who's been tagged before and pick on somebody. And then they can have a go at struggling with a concept that is rather difficult, because it is. This is not natural to try and find an orchid that relates to you in some shape or form. Anyway, I've had a play with it, and that'll do. And I've got some care collabs coming up. I think I've got one on Saturday and one on Monday, I think, something like that. I do those because I've been asked, and I don't mind joining in with that sort of thing. But in my channel, they are probably the least popular videos. Which means I've got a day where there's a video where I'm not going to get the views that I normally get. I don't mind. It's not the end of the world, is it? But most people who run a channel, they like to sort of think to the, well, these are the sort of videos that work well for me, and these are the ones that don't. Well, it would seem a bit daft to keep doing the ones that don't and not doing so much of the ones that do. So, anyway, I'll see you next time. That's my version of it. And if you've watched this video, have a look in the description to see if it's you, to see if you're it. See you next time.